This will split up the labor force, and people with higher education will profit.
其实这是一种劳动力的分化，还有更向更高端的那种进化吧，我觉得。
Will digitalization have a positive or negative effect on the future economy? Will the work of multimedia specialists be replaced by machines in the future?
Well, Gordon Brown, you mentioned it, the drone dispatches and so forth. But there's a worry about young people. Will we replaced by machines? What do you tell them?
I think in every generation there's a worry that because technological change is happening, that jobs will inevitably be less than they are now. I think it's possible that you can create more jobs, but people are doing different things. And clearly, as the economy becomes more prosperous, there are more jobs in the service sector. I don't agree that all low-paid jobs are going to be under pressure, because jobs where there is a personal service involved, where there's a one-to-one contact, people who are carers and helpers and nursery assistants and so on, these jobs are going to continue to grow. But it is true to say we're going to have a divide, unless we do something about it, a polarization between rewarding very little those people who are in relatively low-skilled jobs, and rewarding perhaps in a way that is sometimes excessive people at the very top. And I think the danger is we become a world where people are aware of the gap between the opportunities that they want and desire and see other people have, and the actual opportunities that in practice they get. So we have got to be aware that we've got to do something about this potential polarization, this divide, this dichotomy within the labor force and therefore within society between people who do very well but people who are also suffering, and in particular, of course, in poorer countries where there is still massive poverty that we've got to do something about.
Exactly. But there's these current figures that are quite disturbing, saying that millions of jobs will be destroyed in the future and only some percentage will be created by new technologies. And people in education, they think, will I have a job in the future, Mr. Johan Schneiderman?
I had a meeting with Swiss entrepreneurs earlier this morning, and we discussed exactly this topic. We discussed how do we manage to keep the unemployment rate down? In other words, how do we manage to offer to almost everybody a perspective, which means a job, which means an apprenticeship? And we came to the conclusion in saying what we have to do is to invest into the young people, basic knowledges, basic skills, personality aspects, as I already mentioned, which means reliability.
But do we do it?
We do it. And in this tiny country, Switzerland, we do it in particular. We invest into our young people. 2 out of 3 young Swiss go through a professional vocational education. In a high cost, in a high salary country, but we manage to offer them the chance and they get the basic knowledges and the basic capabilities and the basic personality elements, so to be prepared for whatever technology change in the future. And that's, in my understanding, the basic and the most important. Automation will come up, digitalization as well. And what one of my entrepreneur colleagues this morning stressed in particular was, yes, we speak about 4.0, but do we really have digested 3.0 or 2.0 or 1.0? And don't follow simply the 4.0 wave and changing all the systems. You have to make sure that the young people, in particular, the young people, are prepared for all stages, and the stages are not consequentially, they are in parallel as well.
But Jimmy Wales,
basic investment is the most crucial.
Apart from basic investment, we all agree on the fact that new jobs have to be created while other jobs are being destroyed. However, looking at the data, for example, in the United States, the country of your origin, the number of startups has decreased. So are you sure that in the future, the young people in education will have enough jobs? What must happen that will be the place?
Well, I mean, I think it's a crucial goal of education to make sure that young people are prepared for the future. And given the dynamism of modern economies, that has to mean something more than job training, because job training can get obsolete very quickly. And it goes back to my original message, which is learning how to learn, making sure that we have people who are coming out of school who are adaptable to new conditions, who are as well trained as possible in the basics, which will always be valuable. So, reading, writing, and mathematics, and these kinds of things. And I'm confident, this idea that technology is going to put everyone out of work has been a very popular idea for at least 150 years, and it never seems to happen. So at one level, we can be quite confident. Of course, there will be jobs. Human beings are around. They'll always want to do new things, different things. But we also can't discount that kind of change, that dynamic change, when it happens very quickly, can leave people pretty well stranded. If your only training has been for a type of profession which is on the way out, then you've got a real problem. So if the only thing that you know how to do professionally is to be a very good driver of a car, and you're working as a taxi driver or something like this, driverless cars are going to have an enormous impact on your future career. And we need to think about that well in advance to make sure that people have alternative things to do.
And what can this young student, for example, from the vocational school in Kur, who says, will my job be replaced by machine, what can he do in concrete terms not to be afraid during his education?
I mean, I think the key is, the advice to young people is, don't think of your future career in a too narrow sense, because you don't know what's going to happen to lots of different professions. And therefore, you need to get a broad, good quality education in many different areas so that you are adaptable and creative going forward. And new opportunities, exciting opportunities. Generally, the jobs that we get rid of first are the ones that they aren't that fun anyway. And instead, something more creative and interesting and more human comes up.
Professor Angie Hobbs, he said that one must become creative, one must be able to adapt. How can philosophy help here? Because Stephen Hawking, for example, he says philosophy is dead. Today it's all about science.
Yes, well, he only asks questions about efficient and material causes. There are all the questions about formal and final causes, which he doesn't try to address. There's plenty for philosophy left to do. Well, as we've talked about training your mind so that you can analyze arguments, ask questions, and so on. And of course, there is that formal training, but also it's about putting content into children's minds so that they can extend the imaginative range of possible lives. So it's not just about a training in technique, so that is vital, but it's about, through philosophy, through reading literature, through traveling the world, through meeting lots of people,